Hello, everybody. Welcome back. Happy Monday. Hopefully, you had a pleasant weekend. We are going to get into the latter half of the well, as I called it, the Box O Pittsburgh, more like the Box O Random and TTM Fuel. And it's kind of fitting because last week, on John said, or John's comment was, along the lines of if you don't understand history, you're doomed to repeat it. Very famous quote. And then he said, I'm not sure where it came from. And then that got me thinking. It's like, there are a lot of quotes that are used and, quoted very, very often that maybe a lot of people that we've attributed to the wrong person. And there are quite a few of them that have been around a long time, but I know some of them are coming into the realization now that we've attributed to the wrong person. So I found a couple big ones, the big misattributed quotes. A couple of them I didn't even know. And I figure we can go through the second half of the box and just have ourselves a nice little ramble session. We got some stuff up here. To start it off, as Albert Einstein famously did not say, the definition of insanity is doing the same thing over and over and expecting different results. I don't know where or when it was attributed to him, but it was one of those we always heard. But lately, it's like we've heard wrong, because that one in particular, the quote about insanity, nobody's 100% sure what where it came from, but the two most likely, and they have actually found it, it goes back to a mystery writer by the name of Rita Mae Brown. In her 1983 work, Sudden Death, is where it happened. Also, around that same time period, people have traced that quote or something very similar to it to I think the early 1980s in Narcotics Anonymous literature, which I think is quite fascinating. When it became attached to Einstein, I could not tell you. Excuse me, but we're going to go in to a couple. Kid Brian Hayes, I know the Pirates are not off to a good start. Shocker, I know. Thomas Sandstrom, I love the select. Yeah, that is a beautiful shine. Ben Coates, I remember him back in the day, and this was such a great set. The Flair Showcase. Oh, they just don't do it like that anymore. Holy, there's a name out of the past. Gus Farrat. I have not thought of him in a long time. Jan Hrdina. Alexei Kovalev, I like him. Big fan of him. Michael Chavis. Ooh. That is the perfect TTM card right there for Brian Trottier. A lot of wide open space. And the interesting thing about Trottier, a lot of times, if you send him a card to sign, you may get a different one back because he is a card collector. Who's this? James Neal on the Elite. Justin Schultz. Now, this is an era of Penguins hockey I have not thought of in a while. Michael Roosevelt. God, that's a blast out of the past. Paul Coffey. Great card. Great mullet. Mitch Keller on the Buccos. Ben Gamble. Jacob Stallings. Ooh, we got us a red. What's the one? Is this Tim's? It is. I was going to say, I recognize the rounded corners from Tim's. What was it that he just said? The 20. Now he has the most seasons with a point per game with 20, even past Gretzky. What do we got? Oh, Jake Gensel, a guy I still miss. Bob Airy, a legend. Ronnie Francis, a legend. Rick Dudley. I want to say I've sent that card out to get signed. Doug Bodger on the Penguins. God, I do not that explains that. I do not remember that at all. But on the old OPG, Mike Bullard. There you go. Rookie connections, Mario Lemieux and Patrick Waugh. Sid the Kid on the Blue Authentic Profiles. Jason Zucker. Alexei Kovalev again. Mario Lemieux and a lot of Mario cards I did not have. Andrew Ferentz, there was a good one. The Moose, Johan Hedberg. And, I cannot read that script. Hans Janssen. Do not remember him, I must say. But I do love the kind of canvas feel. Mystery quote number 2 that we've often, unfortunately, misattributed is the old chestnut supposedly coming from Marie Antoinette, that being the let them eat cake. No, she didn't say that, as it turns out, and even if she had, she probably wouldn't have understood it, because, now here's the problem with philosophy. Sorry to all you philosophy people out there. The Swiss philosopher Jean-Jacques Rousseau, here's the problem. In book 6 of his 12-volume autobiography, which, by the way, no, just don't. I don't know of anybody that's accomplished that much that it would be 12 volumes. Anyway, it was called Confessions, and the closest it comes to this is, "At length I recollected the thoughtless saying of a great princess who, on being informed that the country people had no bread, replied, 'Then let them eat pastry.'" Couple problems with this. One, it was written in the year 1767. Marie Antoinette at the time was only 12 years old. Some people have postulated that the Great Princess was a reference to her, but no, she did not marry Louis XVI until 3 years later in 1770. You can do the math if you like. It's not going to add up. But it was a different time. A different time. There we got another Mario. Milan Kraft. See, this is Yager. Let's go, Yager. Sid the Kid. Chris Letang. We got some Timmies. Jake Gensel. Phil the Thrill. Another Yager. Love Yager. Tommy Barrasso, one of the most evil people in hockey. Oh, these are nice. I love these kind of older shots. Centennial. Who would this supposed to be? Stanley Cup. Whoop. There we go. Love the little history. Teams from cities such as Ottawa, Winnipeg, Seattle, and Victoria have also tasted champagne from the Cup Silver Bowl. Interesting. Jim Johnson, Chris Letang, tougher than a $2 steak, Guy Lafleur, James Neal, Oli Mata. He's still playing somewhere. I can't remember where. Scott Wilson, Lee Tunnell. That's a card that's getting signed. I love the hat. Ulf Samuelson, I know why you sent me that. There we go. Walter Gretzky. There's something you don't see often. Wayne and his dad. Another Mario. Toby Peterson. Do not remember you. Oh, that's beautiful. The 3D. Or not the 3D, kind of the hollow. Game Breakers, Emmett Smith. And a Mario on... I like that. The Atomic. I remember Atomic for the cup of coffee that it was around. As Marilyn Monroe famously did not say as well, well-behaved women rarely make history. Well, this is a true statement, however, it was not said by her. Actually, it comes from a Pulitzer Prize-winning American historian specializing in early American and especially the history of women in early America by the name of Laurel Thatcher Ulrich. She was a professor at Harvard in 1976 when she penned that phrase, the well-behaved women rarely make history. That was 14 years after Marilyn Monroe had passed away, and she wrote it for an edition of American Quarterly. And again, I often wonder, especially back in the time, Gino, before the internet. Is that Ronnie? It is. Ronnie Francis, Larry Murphy. We get Mike Needham, and like I say, Manon Rhéaume, first female goalie in hockey, a living treasure. Slick, Andy Van Slyke. We got another Gino, another Larry Murphy. Marv Albert. Let's go. I have wanted one of those for a while. We got Rick Tocchet, Mike McCormick. Swell. Oh, there's a name. There's a football name I'm sadly unfamiliar with. Research is required. Dave Tippett, Trottier again, Andrew Ferentz, Jeff Carter, Kovalev, Tommy Barrasso. There we go, some Bills action. Tom Collin, Thurman Thomas, what a running back. The Minister of Defense, Reggie White, rest in peace. Corey Dillon. There's a name. Eddie Kennison. There's some names I haven't thought of in a while. Rashawn Salam, another Yager, and a Marty Straka, who, if you're willing to send over to the Czech Republic, is a very good signer. But as I said, because I don't really know how to format these videos to how to make it so it's actually watchable. How is it? Like, I really want to know. Like, we've found why, or to whom the misattributed, or to whom the quotes have been misattributed to actually said them. I don't know how it became that it got to that particular person. This one, though, actually some of them, actually that was a pretty good segue, Zach. We've all heard the old, along the lines of, I disapprove of what you say, but I will defend to the death your right to say it. People have attributed that to Voltaire for a long time. It turns out Voltaire himself did not say it, but it came from a biography of Voltaire by Evelyn Beatrice Hall. She wrote, and by the way, it was called Friends of Voltaire. She wrote, I disapprove of what you say, but I will defend to the death your right to say it. It was his attitude now. So basically, she thought that's what he would have said and paraphrased it. And I think that's kind of fascinating because I haven't read much Voltaire, but that doesn't seem out of the realm of what he would say. So that is kind of an interesting one that she thought if he would have thought about it, he would have said it this way. More than likely, he absolutely would have. Thomas Sandstrom, Jim Carrey, we got, yes, we got the Herwood. We got the Herwood. Cannot remember who it is, but it's the Herwood. It is Jean-Marc Pelletier. The Herwood, that's going to go get signed. A couple of the big bowmen. I do love the big bowmen. Jim Abbott, absolute legend. Billy Ripken, he of the F-Face. Kevin Hatcher, name from the past. Sergei Zubov. Wendell Young, the King of the Rings. Troy Loney. Drew O'Connor on the Young Guns. Gino, the Cups winner. There's a name out of my past. R.J. Reynolds. I haven't thought of that in a while. Sid the Kid. We get another of the Timmy Hortons with Gino. I don't know about the red and the yellow. I don't know. I don't know if it's the yellow helmets, I think. I just don't care about that one. We got Sid on the canvas. Mario on the record books. Another Sid. J.S. Auban. Joey Mullen, great signer. Paul Coffey on the members only. Ooh, here we go. Is this? I thought so. Robin Yount on the, I like that, motocross. The Sidelines were a great series because it always had him doing something else. You know, every major league, the team he was on freaked out when he did that. Troy Loney, Marty Struck, J.S. Auban, and Yager, once again, the ageless wonder himself. Then we have this one, and this falls under the category of makes you wonder when and how it was attributed to them. Our deepest fear is not that we are inadequate. Our deepest fear is that we are powerful beyond measure. No, Nelson Mandela did not say that. It was attributed to him after he got out of prison after 27 years. Problem is, don't know how it got attributed to him, but he never said that. It actually came from a self-help writer, Marianne Williamson, who wrote that in her 1989 bestseller, A Return to Love. And in fact, what I've heard is on her website, or the website for her, she actually, on the front page, like, no, this is my quote. But again, makes you wonder, how in the world did it get to Nelson Mandela? And we have a small stack, 2 left, so we're going to do one, the final one, go through that, and end it on a good one, because actually I planned it out slightly. Be who you are and say what you feel, because those who mind don't matter, and those who matter don't mind. That is a brilliant, brilliant statement and a beautiful piece of advice. However, Dr. Seuss did not say it. It actually first appears in 1938 in the London Journal for Municipal and County Engineers. That's an odd one. An ambiguous Mr. Davis. Is it, if it's Davies, is it Davis or Davies over in the UK? I think it would be maybe Davis. It So whomever Mr. Davis or Davies was directed those words to people who criticized his housing designs. So an interesting and kind of maybe shallow application originally, but it's something that is a piece of advice that, you should take, because that in the grand scheme of things, yeah, just be yourself. The people that are truly your friends and the people that truly enjoy you and like what you do, like with me, they're going to be there regardless. So don't change yourself just for the sake of somebody else, because it's not going to work out and it's just unfortunate all around. Be yourself, and people will find you. That's the key takeaway. There we go. We got some of the swell. We'll put that together. Swell, the old football card. Steve Owen. There we go. The legend. God, would you be disappointed at what your family has done to your team, sir? My apologies. One of the greatest legends of all time, Jim Thorpe. Ken Houston, another legend. Fred Biletnikoff. George McAfee, there's a name out of the past. Marion Motley, another one back in the Cleveland Browns days when they were actually good. And weirdly, in the era when running backs could wear number 76, it did not matter. Who's this one? Peter Zezel? Peter Zezel? Why does that name ring a bell, other than the fact it's an amazing name? Damian Rhodes, there's a lot of TTM fuel. The Conn Smythe for Mario. Larry Murphy, sorry, the old Don Russ is hard to read. Riley Sheehan, Justin Schultz, Chris Letang, Sid the Kid, a lot of Sid the Kid, none of them. Jimmy Pack. That is awesome, because I have a Jimmy Pack TTM, but it's on a team card. I'm sending that out to him to get him to sign it. That is amazing. I'm a big fan of Jimmy Pack. Rob Scuderi, Sid the Kid, Laser Shots for Gino, Jake Gensel. God, these are nice. Ronnie Francis, Joey Mullen with the cup, that would look good. Jay Bell, big fan. Jay Bell, again. Doug Brown, Kasperi Kapanen, Sid the Kid, Cody Cece. Is it Cece or Ceci? Ronnie Francis. So many good cards. So many guys that I remember seeing back in the 90s when the Penguins finally turned it around from their not very good beginnings. Teddy Bluger, Jason Zucker, Jared McCann, Kasperi Kapanen, Tristan Jarry, who plays great when the game doesn't matter. And we end it on Jake Gensel. Like I say, they screwed the pooch when they traded him back when they did. And now, because this is the final quote and we're going to wrap up this video, it actually is fitting. The quote is as old as time. The ends justify the means. We've all heard it. We've all used it. And this is good because we got to the end and whatever happened before, it's justified because we're here. Always been widely attributed to Niccolo Machiavelli, the author of I won't necessarily call it a book, but more of a manual, a guide called The Prince. If you've never read it, I highly recommend it. It is very old. It is weirdly dry, but it is quite fascinating. He didn't say that. The closest Machiavelli came to the original idea is in the book I just referenced, The Prince. He says, people will always consider a prince's means as honest and praise him. That's sort of along the line, but where it came from, we have to go further back than Machiavelli, who was in, I believe, the 15th century. We have to go back to Herodes II by the ancient Roman poet Ovid. Ovid wrote the phrase exitus acta probat. Roughly does translate to the outcome justifies the means. So, by that regard, however we got here, we did it right. I hope you enjoyed it. I like digging into the history of stuff like that. And thanks, John, so much for not only the massive amount of TTM fuel, but the idea to do something like that. Just, and you have to be careful. In the days of technology right now, you truly have to be careful about, what you see, because we're going to wrap this up with one of the most famous quotes of all time. To quote the great President Abraham Lincoln, don't believe everything you read on the internet. With that said, thank you so much for joining me on this Rambling Monday Talks about misattributed quotes. Hope you enjoyed it. We saw a lot of hockey cards, a lot of good stuff, and I got the Herwood card. Herwood winning the day. So thank you so much for watching. Thank you, John, for the cards and the idea, and we will see you next time.